Okay guys, in this video we're going to show you how to apply the introduction BCOT technique to rewrite your introduction and improve on it. So just a quick recap of the BCOT introduction structure. B stands for bang. This is when you use some of the keywords in the questions as a lead in to your introduction. So the bang is a statement that contains the keywords. Hopefully, okay, you could use a quote, you could use a trend, you could use statistics, you could even use a piece of fact or current news. C stands for clarifying concepts. For this particular component, you will clarify certain words that are vague in the question. So if a question has a keyword, okay, whatever it is, that's kind of vague, ambiguous, okay, try to clarify that. You could clarify by giving a definition. You could clarify using an example perhaps, okay, or a couple of examples. The third item on the list is the OV. The opposing view is very simply what the critics believe in, and the thesis statement next is of course what you believe in. Yeah. So BCOT, these are the four components that make up the introduction. Let's look at one example of an introduction from one of our students. Okay, we'll look at this introduction and figure out whether it fulfills the BCOT. If it doesn't, we will look at how we can improve on it. So here you can see the question is, any change in society begins in school. Now, while you're analyzing the question, you would kind of pick up the fact that the word change is vague. What sort of change are we talking about? So in your BCOT, where do you think you will want to define the change? Yep, it's the C when you clarify the concept. Let's look at the introduction here. Okay, students are sent to school to obtain an education. School is meant to develop students and their moral values, since these are their formative years where they learn to grow and become better people who eventually move on to serve society. This is great as an introduction, but if you want to level it up, right, you should try to pick up things that focuses on some of the keywords here. Change, okay, school. So do we have the word change here? Okay, we don't really have the word change here. We did talk about the formative years, we did talk about the moral values. There isn't a clear focus on the word change, so we want to explicitly spell out the word change. That's one. Secondly, we want to make sure the introduction is impactful enough. As a bang, you should try to attract the reader's attention. The examiner wants to see maybe something new or something fresh. So you might want to use an example, something like a piece of evidence, perhaps some sort of observation even. You could try using those things. I can't think of any quote that can replace this, neither can I think of statistics or current affairs, but I think an observation will be quite sufficient for this question. Alright, so this is kind of general, kind of generic for a bang. Okay, you want to drill down to something a bit more specific. So the bang, we got to change that. Now, clarifying concept. Now, did we try to clarify the word change here? Let's have a look. While it cannot be denied that schools do play a large role in a child's and thus society's development and change, which in this case refers to developing its citizens into people with a better moral compass. This is quite confusing because the sentence has a lot of different clauses in one. So you might want to use a bracket instead of a comma, or actually my favorite, why not use this? This is what we call an M dash. Okay, which in this case refers to developing citizens into people with better moral compass. Are we exactly talking about change here? Yes, this is related to change. I can see that. However, it doesn't fully capture the more multifaceted aspect of change in society. Having a strong moral compass still doesn't solve, say, environmental problems or even racism. Moral compass is something kind of basic. So this is quite narrow. We might want to broaden this definition. Okay, not all change is required to be done in school, since learning is a lifelong process and school is not able to change everyone's mindset. We are looking at whether schools are responsible for change. We are talking really about responsibility here, rather than whether not all change is required to be done in school. Yeah, the focus is a bit off here because you're talking about not all changes need to be done. Okay, some changes, okay, well, the focus is on school, what schools can or cannot do, rather than the changes themselves. So maybe over here, okay, hey, we might want to change the thesis statement a bit. Okay, just reframe it. Now the thesis should be very clear in that it should show that this is your stand. It is not clear at this point what your stand is. I tend to want to be more explicit about the stance. So here I might use the word critics. Here I might use the word I. However, I believe something. So using all these points, I will improve on it and I will show you how it will look like. Okay guys, this is the improved version of the introduction. Now, let's start with the bang. Schools across the world are scrambling to educate children on media literacy, helping them become more critical thinkers and smarter consumers of media in the digital age. So, we are talking about a current trend. What's happening right now? This is the trend. Yeah. Now, for a trend, typically I like to add a word in front of it. I like to add the word increasingly. Yeah. So, good word to use for your introduction. Okay, quite simple. Indeed, the education system plays a role. So I would say the bang ends here. Education plays a role in bringing about positive change in society. So we talk about change. Yeah, here. Oh no, we didn't talk about change here. Okay, but we brought the word. Okay, we kind of defined the word here in the C. Right, this is the bang, the B, and then the C, the clarification part, because this is where we will define what change we are talking about. Now, the word change is quite vague. I would, instead of defining change with the meaning of change, I would use examples. Okay, to bring about positive change in society, like what? From environmental consciousness to greater tolerance, to improving creativity and fighting racism. So I have a range of values or positive things which are not necessarily confined to morality. It could even be as basic as instilling a stronger moral compass in the younger generation. So I even brought in the part of morality just to add on to the definition of change. Then we want to talk about the opponent's view. The OV could be, many argue that it is the school's duty to influence behaviors. So this is the change part. It is the school's duty. This is the stance. It is the school's duty. Why? Why is it the school duty? Because they can influence behaviors, attitude. They can profoundly shape the minds of the young. So this is the reason. In our thesis statement here, we also look at what we think. This is definitely SV what you think, and your stance is this: schools cannot be wholly responsible for inciting immediate change. This is your stance. Why? Since education is a slow process, this is your reason. Now, the nature of this question is such that we want to talk about what schools cannot do in order to change society and possibly bring in other factors. that can change what schools cannot do. In that respect, we will have to bring in something else that can cause change in society. Okay, families and governments, they are also responsible if society wants meaningful changes, because this solves the problem that education cannot solve here. Yeah, because education is a slow process. Okay. You want to start with families, you want to start with government, which is a bit more immediate. And there you have it, BCOT. This is a slightly improved version of the introduction earlier over here. I'm gonna leave this introduction in the link below so you can download it, have a look and study it in details. If you're interested, you can check out our other videos on how to write an introduction and how to write a conclusion. Right, that's it for this video. Thank you.